Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for checking out mtgrocks.com. My name is Alan. Today we have a deck tech for Mono Green Aggro in Standard. Now, Mono Green Aggro is a deck that's been around for quite a bit of time since rotation. It's been a pretty strong contender on the ladder and in tournaments, and the deck's evolved since the release of Innistrad Crimson Vow. We've got a couple of cards in the deck that we are taking advantage of in this deck from Crimson Vow. So what we're going to do is go over each of the cards in the deck, kind of talk about it a bit, so you guys know a little bit more about the deck and you can take it on the ladder successfully. So first thing we're going to do, let's start off with the cards that we did get from the new set from Innistrad Crimson Vow. First off, we'll start off with Ascendant Pack Leader. So it's a 1 mana 2/1. An Ascendant Pack Leader enters the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter on it if you control a permanent with mana value 4 or greater. And then whenever you cast a spell with mana value 4 or greater, then you put another +1/+1 counter on Ascendant Pack Leader. So this is kind of acting like our Pelt Collector of old from the Guilds of Ravnica era of Standard. And it's a sizable, a decent body. We don't have too many cards that really trigger this, but the ones that we have are pretty important for the deck, kind of to top out and curve out with. So this is a great early game drop and can get in for some nice early damage. The other card that we did get from Crimson Vow is the Ulvenwald Oddity, the Ulvenwald Behemoth. So 4 mana 4/4, trample and haste. So a pretty standard, run-of-the-mill creature, but pretty powerful, kind of filling in the questing beast slot, if you will. But then it also has a 7 mana activated ability to transform it. And when it transforms into the Ulvenwald Behemoth, this is an 8/8 with trample and haste. And then it anthems our creatures, giving them +1/+1. And then it also giving them trample and haste. So that's a pretty powerful thing if we can get to that late game with our board state intact and we transform this guy. The beast, and we get a really big benefit from that. So that's all of the new cards really in the main deck. Outside of that, we'll go through the rest of the curve. Blizzard Brawl, one of the best fight spells that's been printed in quite some time, giving our creatures indestructible +1/+0. We're playing all snow lands here, so this makes a ton of sense to play. It's cheap, it's 1 mana, so this is going to get us out of a lot of situations, let us force through damage and clear the way for our creatures. Next then, Ranger class. So this has gone down in numbers in the deck over the course of the past few months. Some are playing more, but this used to be a full-blown 4 of staple in this kind of deck. And it's gone down in number, but I personally like these cards quite a bit, so I would like to see more of these, maybe in a different version. But when it comes in, it makes us a 2/2. We level it up for 2, and then an attacking creature gets +1/+1 counter on it. And then if we go to 4, then we get a little bit of extra card advantage. We can cast creatures off the top of our deck. We have a lot of creatures in our deck, so it makes a ton of sense to have. Sculptor of Winter. So 2 mana 2/2 that lets us untap a snow land. So again, since we're playing all snow lands here, this is pretty much just helping us ramp from 2 to 4, where some of our bigger hitters are in the deck. Or, turn 3 we can cast, or turn 4 we can cast a 5-drop, just giving us a little bit of ramp to kind of outpace some of the faster decks. Tangle Florahedron, a dual face card, is a creature that gives us a mana, or it's a tap land. Most likely, you're going to want to play this on the creature side. For more than anything, you really don't want to have to play this as a tapped land if you don't have to. Sculptor of Winter can't untap it. We can't use it to activate Faceless Haven. So really, having it as a creature is probably the way to go. We could attack with it, I guess, if we wanted to, but either way, it's just another mana source. Werewolf Pack Leader, one of the standout cards from Adventures in the Forgotten Realm. So 2 mana 3/3, and it has Pack Tactics. Whenever it attacks, if you attack with creatures totaling power 6 or greater, we get to draw a card. That's going to happen a lot in this deck. We have a lot of really big beefy creatures, which we'll see here in a second. So we're regularly going to be triggering this ability. It also has an activated ability, 3 and green. Until the end of turn, it gets base power 5/3 and gains trample, and it's not a human, so it gets its wolf form, if you will. So really great. Kind of really great card for this deck. Again, it's aggressively statted for its cost, gives us card advantage. So this is, and then it can buff itself, right? So this is a perfect 2-drop slot for this kind of deck. Next up, Old Growth Control, another, again, aggressively statted creature, 4/4 with trample for 3 green. And when it dies, if it's a creature, then it comes back as an aura, enchanting a forest that we control, and that forest gives us 2 green mana when we tap it instead of 1. And also it has an activated ability that we can sacrifice the forest to make a 4/4, so basically make another Old Growth Troll out of the forest, right? So again, having the aggressive statting on this card just really helps us push the boundaries of how we conduct combat. The fact that it has trample also helps again force through some of that damage, and combo it with Blizzard Brawl, you start really racking the damage up over time. Again, and also too the fact that it also gives us multiple mana when it comes back from dying. Lets us again ramp up into some of our bigger creatures, lets us double spells. There's a lot of utilization here. In the 4-drop slot, Asika's Chariot. This is kind of, everybody knows this card. This card's been kind of plaguing, or was plaguing standard when rotation hit, and for the first little while of Innistrad Midnight Hunt. So it's a 4-mana vehicle, 3 and a green, and it makes 2 creature tokens when it enters the battlefield, and you can crew it for 4. But when it attacks, you create a token that's a copy of a token that you control. So you could, copy the 4/4 Old Growth Troll token that you made. You could copy the Ranger class tokens. You can copy the cats, I guess, if you really wanted to. Those are your options, kind of in the main deck. But very powerful card. One of these must kill on-site kind of threats that it lends its strength to the deck pretty nicely. Of note, we can also play this, then like say Old Growth Troll, and use the Old Growth Troll to crew this. Like there's a lot of interaction. We can get to 4 toughness or 4 power pretty easily without having to spend too many creatures crewing it. Next up, then again, so the Ubenwald Oddity, we talked about this guy. Pretty powerful card. Again, also can crew Asika's Chariot. And then the last card on the deck at the top of the curve, one that's a little bit contentious, one I'm a fan of personally, is Unnatural Growth. So it's a 5-mana enchantment, 4 green and 1. At the beginning of each combat, double the power and toughness of each creature that you control until the end of turn. So this is on both your combat and your opponent's combat, which makes attacking and blocking really, really tricky for your opponent, right? So depending if you have like trample creatures, you can really make some damage happen very quickly, especially with things like Ubenwald Oddity and Old Growth Troll. That can happen very quickly. If you happen to be able to activate Werewolf Pack Leader, if you've gotten a Blizzard Brawl on one of these guys to kill a creature, then now you have a bigger indestructible trampling threat. There's a lot to go off of with this. Some decks will play 1, maybe won't play any at all. I played 4 in the version that I went to Mythic with quite a little bit ago, so this deck's playing 3. I think it's a fine compromise. It's a pretty powerful card. When we slam this on the table, we're generally going to be in a pretty decent spot. Land base, again, I said we're playing Snowlands. We're playing a couple of snow synergies here. Faceless Haven is an auto include in this kind of thing. It's one of these lands that has a lot of power. It might not seem like a whole lot, but it really can help push damage through when damage really can't be pushed in the late game of, when things kind of, our board gets cleared out for facing control, where we can't really cast creatures. This is the method that which we can continue our damage output. Moving on to the sideboard here. So we have 3 Inscription of Abundance in the sideboard. This is really a great option against a bunch of different kinds of decks, really. Putting +1/+1 counters on our creature can save it from removal, can save it for blocking as a combat trick. We can gain life if we're playing against a little bit more of an aggressively slanted deck, whether it's like vampires or mono white. We have a lot of options there. We can fight things, right? So if we're fighting, primarily we would want to be ideally fighting things that fly, because we just don't have reach, right? We don't have reach, we don't have flying. So fighting things like Goldspan Dragon, Maniform Dragon, Elite Spellbinder, Redain, lots of different decks that have flyers. Inscription's really a nice include to bring in against those decks. Outlaw Liberator, really just used to deal with artifacts and enchantments, things like Celestis or Maul of the Skyclaves, opposing Asika's Chariots. There's quite a few options for this. It's totally worth having in. Second Ranger class, and just in case we need to go a little bit wider, just need to have a little bit more token generation to kind of combat a more aggressive go wide strategy. Snakeskin Veil, great for against control when they're going to be removing our creatures. Honestly, these are great pretty much against a lot of strategies. Mono white, some versions of mono white play things like Fateful Absence. They play Portable Hole, so giving our creatures hexproof is always a great thing. Also beefing them up a little bit, but primarily this is going to be against your control decks that have kind of some spot removal. Tajuru Stoneblade or Blight, Tajuru Blightblade, man, it's a mouthful. This is a 1/1 Death Toucher for 1. Not really. I mean, really, this is mostly to just block big creatures, block dumb creatures. It's not. I don't think there's really any massive like specific creature this is really targeting. This is just kind of a good blocker. Probably also a pretty decent attacker as well too. It's pretty hard for our opponent to want to have to block this thing. Renin 7. So this deck, some versions of the deck will play Renin 7 in the main. Renin 7 again is kind of like a really nice way to help combat against flyers. Is also pretty good against in the control matchups when we can land it. Helps generate us a little bit of card advantage and keeps our mana flowing. But also combos really nicely with the Seeker's Chariot. We can make this Tree Folk creature token and then crew it with a crew Seeker's Chariot with that token, copy it, and have a second massive token in play that has reach. So this is a great one. And then Toevalar's Huntmaster again. This is more for, again, if we need to go wide, if we can get to that late game, again, against another mid-range deck, we can go wide. If we can flip it over, attack with it sometimes. We're going to have actually quite a few number of wolf creature tokens in play. So that's a pretty nice thing. And then also, it has a fight spell on the backside of this thing. So for 4 mana, we can have a wolf or a werewolf fight a creature we don't control. And, if we end up having, giving our creatures indestructible with Blizzard Brawl, one of our wolves, we can fight with that on this side. I mean, it's a 7/7 as well, so it's a pretty beefy body. We can usually take down a lot of different creatures with Toevalar's Huntmaster, but really good top end to really round out the rest of the list. So, yep, so that's Mono Green Aggro. Hope you guys enjoyed the deck tech. If you liked it, make sure you guys hit the like button, subscribe, share it out with a friend, comment down below. Let me know, what do you think about Mono Green? Have you played this deck on ladder? Is this one of your favorite decks? What variations or changes would you like to make to this deck, or what's worked for you? And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see you guys in the next one. Make sure to check out mtgrocks.com for all your Magic the Gathering content. From finance to strategy, news, and previews, it's all here at mtgrocks.com.